Is MSNBC on its way to becoming the next Fox News? I mean, from a management perspective, right? Because the management at MSNBC, well, it seems to have literally no control over anyone that works there. Like, those people work there. They get a paycheck. They're not choosing to go out on their own like me or like Tucker or Bongino or a lot of like big personalities. No. These people work for MSNBC, which is owned by NBC News, which is owned by Comcast. Just like there are people that work for Fox News, which is owned by the Murdoch family primarily, and some shareholders, big institutional shareholders there. You have Fox A and Fox B class shares. Well, I just say this because clearly management had no control over anything that was going on at Fox. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had to pay like a nearly $1 billion in a lawsuit there to Dominion. So the management at Fox, and Tucker's actually made some really funny comments about this, about the scared women that are running the place right now. But I can tell you, as someone who used to be there, they're scared. They're scared for their jobs. There's no leadership. And when you have a vacuum of leadership, you have the inmates running the asylum. And so this makes a lot of investors, and that experience, and the stocks tanked, by the way, since that Dominion thing, and the loss of Tucker and sort of the onset of this new media mechanism by which you can get content free right here. Remember to subscribe and hit the like and make a comment and share and do all that good stuff. But given all these changes in the media industry and the increasing challenges that they face as a result of that, plus you layer in a really bad management team, Fox has its trouble. And then you look over at MSNBC and it's like, I see the handwriting on the wall right now, because all the talent's like, well, I don't need this. Do I really need this? And if they don't really need this, they don't need this gig, and they probably don't need those gigs, but they are employed there. So, hey, it is your employer. You're collecting a paycheck. You'd think you might try to do what your bosses want you to do. Not these guys. Do we have the original tape when Ronna was first hired? So Ronna McDaniel, no love lost, right? I don't think that she did the best job for the RNC. However, I'll tell you, this lady didn't deserve what she got. So she signs a deal with MSNBC for 2 years at $300,000 a year. So $600,000. She signs a deal. Everything's done. She goes on and makes her first appearance on this weekend show that they have. And then all HE breaks loose. Let's cue the tape.
I'll be joined by former RNC chair Ronna McDaniel in her first interview since stepping down as party chair. In full disclosure to our viewers, this interview was scheduled weeks before it was announced that McDaniel would become a paid NBC News contributor. This will be a news interview, and I was not involved in her hiring.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation. And look, there's a reason why there's a lot of journalists at NBC News uncomfortable with this, because many of our professional dealings with the RNC over the last 6 years have been met with gaslighting. Have been met with character assassination.
We weren't asked our opinion of the hiring, but if we were, we would have strongly objected to it.
NBC News, either wittingly or unwittingly, is teaching election deniers that what they can do stretches well beyond appearing on our air in interviews to peddle lies about the sanctity and integrity of our elections, but that they can do that as one of us, as badge-carrying employees of NBC News.
Special. There is an easy way to avoid the controversy NBC News has stumbled into. Don't hire anyone close to the crimes.
She literally backed an illegal scheme to steal an election in the state of Michigan.
That is the type of experience that Ronna McDaniel brings to the table. And that experience does not get us to a deeper understanding of anything in the public debate.
I want to associate myself with all my colleagues, both at MSNBC and at NBC News, who have voiced loud and principled objections to our company putting on the payroll someone who hasn't just attacked us as journalists, but someone who is part of an ongoing project to get rid of our system of government.
Oh my gosh. It's like Rachel really speaks for everyone, right? I'm gonna back all my colleagues on this. Not like I've promoted conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory myself. I mean, we can go back to the dossier and then some, right? She's the queen of conspiracy theories. All right, there's no journalism there. Trust me. She's not a journalist. She's an intriguing commentator. I mean, I can go down that rabbit hole any day, right? Like, she's just leaving all these little breadcrumbs with her conspiracy theory BS. And people are like, oh, glued, even though it's all lies. That's what she does. And somehow, you're all high and mighty. Jen Psaki, who was the PR person, for goodness sake, she's suddenly a journalist? I don't think so. Hey, you know what? I was a journalist when I was 10. Hampton Union newspaper, 5th grade. I've been a journalist for a long time, and I actually take it seriously. But I'll tell you this, anybody who's fair can be a journalist nowadays. Those people are not fair. They are commentators, they are entertainers, and they are hoitier than you could ever, hoity-toity, thinking they're so much better than poor Ronna McDaniel, who signs a deal, and then the impotent management over at MSNBC is they're like totally intimidated by the likes of their talent. I mean, for goodness sakes, MSNBC, you guys own the airwaves. You own it. The bosses own it. You know, just fire them, okay? Fire them all. Fire them all. I bet you anything you could come up with a better B team tomorrow, and America would be better for it, and your ratings would be better for it too. But they don't think that way, because they're like Fox, they're super scared of everyone. And so the guy who runs the place, Cesar Conde, he came out with a statement. Do we have that one, Drew? And he's like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize we made such a mistake. I mean, we can't have a Republican on the air, right? No. You can only have never Trumpers. If you're going to have a Republican, you need a never Trumper, like that girl with the really long hair and the jaw. What is her name? Who does the 4 o'clock thing? Anyway, quote, there is no doubt that there's the last several days that have been very difficult for News Group. After listening to the legitimate concerns of many of you, I have decided that Ronna McDaniel will not be an NBC News contributor. After listening to the concerns that aired on primetime TV. Conde said the initial decision was made due to the network's deep commitment to, and I'm quoting, presenting our audiences with a widely diverse set of viewpoints and experiences, particularly during these consequential times. Except apparently you don't care about your audience, do you, Conde? Because the B team that's full of conspiracies that you have on your airwaves and clearly are paying way too much and have given too much power to, they didn't like her, so you took her off. Ironically, he writes, the big boss could not, oh, no, this is the Daily Mail's or Daily Caller. I can't remember which one, but a reporter's view of it. The big boss could not uphold the network's so-called value for diverse viewpoints as he quickly succumbed to the whines of his far-left hosts who have been furiously calling for McDaniel's ouster since her first appearance as a contributor. That's a good line. I believe it's from Daily Caller. Anyway, it's fantastic. I mean, this guy, come on. He said, I want to personally apologize to our team members who felt we let them down. While this was a collective recommendation by some members of our leadership team, I approved it and take full responsibility for it. So you see 2 things there. He's like, oh, I'm in charge. And actually, this wasn't my idea. Not my idea at all. I mean, what a loser. Seriously, what a freaking loser. And so I'd be watching shares of Comcast right now. Maybe NBC doesn't matter that much to them, but the ratings for MSNBC, I don't know how they are these days. I mean, they seem to be in a solid second place consistently to Fox. And I guess if you're of the mindset that you can make money there because of all this ESG nonsense, these ESG people want to advertise on your network, then there you go. But really and truly, it's crazy. You know, Donald Trump weighed in on this. I believe we have his comments. Donald Trump saying, like, this isn't fair what they did to Ronna. It's totally not fair. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And he writes, and he's right. What boss or executive would allow a man or woman, in this case, Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd, who was fired for dismal performance coupled with horrendous television ratings, to publicly scold them as to their weakness and stupidity in hiring Ronna McDaniel? I totally agree with this. Really, I mean, they just got lashed on live TV. And this idiot CEO or whatever he is, president of the news division, is like terrified of his anchors. Actually, they should be scolded for hiring Sleepy from Meet the Fake Press and keeping him for so long despite his poor performing skills, bad ratings, and his bias. The sick degenerates over, he's not holding back, at MSDNC, that's a good one, are really running NBC, and there seems nothing Chairman Brian Roberts can do about it. Oh, poor Brian. Chuck Todd, of all people, viciously giving Roberts a piece of his small mind and then berating him for hiring Ronna without his or the other lunatic's approval was just a step too far. Brian's great-grandfather would have fired Chuck Todd, and the rest of these losers on the spot. Perhaps Brian still will. If I knew Ronna was going to troubled MSNBC, I would have advised her to change her name back to Romney. She would have had a far better chance. So he's referring to Brian Roberts, who I'm sure can't be too psyched about any of this. I mean, Brian Roberts is a businessman. He tends to, as most businessmen are, be sort of, down the middle, but a little bit more right when it comes to some of the economic issues. And so I'm sure he's not psyched about this. And he looks like a tool as well. I mean, I realize that Caesar's taken the brunt of the fault, although maybe it was Brian. Maybe Brian's idea was to hire Ronna because maybe he actually thinks there's an opportunity to have these dialogues. Well, these dialogues can't be had there. I mean, say what you want about Fox, and believe me, I, in this show, have said plenty, but no one would have actually done to Donna Brazile what these people at MSNBC did to Ronna McDaniel. I mean, Donna was on our air. Everybody was fine with it. I mean, maybe they didn't agree with her. Maybe they didn't like what she had done, the whole slip in the questions at the debate when she was at CNN. But allegedly, I think maybe she came out and admit that. I don't know. I digress. Whatever. The point is, she was a Democrat, a big Democrat, and everybody at Fox was fine with it. She went on the 5. She, I think, was on my show from time to time. We're fine. Like everyone on the left is the one with the problem. They're the ones that are like, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. It's offending me. I can't have a Trump sign outside my dorm room. Even though he's the Republican nominee for president, for goodness sakes. We had to go through that, didn't we? Anyway, good news is Ronna's going to get a big settlement. More on that in a second. But before I do, I just want you to see this because the anchors actually had something to say. They were like high-fiving each other because, you see, they won. And this is some big game to them. Take a look at Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow celebrating that they got Ronna fired.
So something happened. Another thing happened that is not about the abortion situation. Our chairman of the NBC Universal News Group, Cesar Conde, who we both know very well, he sent a memo that we all got as employees here, rescinding the hiring of Ronna Romney McDaniel. And I know I felt very strongly about it. I know you felt very strongly about it. I think everyone from 4 o'clock on, from Nicole all the way to midnight, we all felt very strongly and said so on our respective shows yesterday. And I just have to say, when somebody does the right thing, I feel like it should be acknowledged as publicly as we acknowledged our outrage. And so I know how I feel about it. I am grateful to Caesar for actually making the right decision. I think it was the right decision, but I want to get your take as well.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me about it. I still feel like I still feel like a little. It always feels wrong to talk about things, in the company
Agreed.
as if it's news. And it's
Because
just
it
this,
is.
it's not the way either you or I are wired.
all.
I know, but I will just say that journalists are a fractious bunch. And in our big company with all sorts of different journalistic entities, you have all sorts of different people working in this business, doing all sorts of different kinds of work. And to see the essentially unanimous feeling among all the journalists in this building and all the sort of senior staff and all the producers and everybody in this building about this was one thing. But then to see the executives and the leadership hear that and respond to it and be willing to change course based on their respect for us and hearing what we argued, I have deep respect for that. I do. I mean what I said on the air last night on my show, that I think that
yes,
acknowledging
I got the power.
that you might have gotten something wrong is a real sign of strength, a real show of strength. And I think it's a show of strength, and I think it's a show of respect for the people who work at this company and who make us who we are. That leadership was willing to change on this, and I'm grateful to them. It's not about hiring a Republican. It's not even about hiring somebody who has Trump ties. This was a really specific case because of Ms. McDaniel's and her involvement in the election interference stuff. And I'm grateful that our leadership was willing to do the bold, strong,
Yeah. You know what? This lady's just grateful. She's like, I'm like CEO of the joint. You know what? My ability to rally the troops and have everybody complain on live TV. That's what it's really about. So I'm psyched. Well, you just get as psyched as you want, because you know what? You're going to take your company right down the tubes there. And I'm telling you, Brian Roberts has himself a problem. Brian owns Comcast, and he's got himself a very large problem, because the inmates are running the asylum. You've just created these and bred these people that are just so far out in left field, literally, that they now have a huge issue. And they're going to have to pay for it. So Ronna just went on TV and earned the most money that probably anyone's going to earn on TV, like by the second. I mean, if you work these numbers out, I mean, so 600 grand, but they're going to have to pay her more. Mark my words. She just hired Brian Friedman. Brian Friedman is a killer attorney who has negotiated the exits of, let's see, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, actually from NBC, Don Lemon, who walked away with 20 some odd million. Oh my gosh. What were they thinking? At CNN? I mean, Friedman's like, I think he did Chris Cuomo's exit there too. I'm not positive on that. I think he did. Anyway, so he's kind of one of these badass attorneys. And that means Comcast is going to have to pay up. NBC's parent, Comcast, is going to get stuck with a big bill, because she's going to sue, and she's going to sue, and she's going to sue him again, because she's got a lot to sue on now. In other words, you sign a deal, you're supposed to get the money, right? So she's got to get the money that she was going to get. But simultaneously, like, look at what they did to her and her reputation. I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, talking about bad faith. There's a case there. There is definitely a case there. And, you know, my friend Hugh Hewitt, he said so much while appearing on my former network. Watch.
About this thing.
Well, Ronna is a friend, and I did work for NBC, and in November I worked with Caesar and Rebecca and the whole team. I've never seen anything this brutal since I got started in media in 1990. Ronna is going to sue everyone who defamed her for breach of contract, for intentional infliction of mental distress. They are going to sue for the destruction of her business opportunities that come from being on TV. I think they made a terrible decision, and they allowed the MSNBC bleed to take over their network. And the cult has taken over the news division, and it's going to hurt the 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump are not going to watch NBC News.
Boom. Not that they watched NBC to begin with. You know, they might have watched NBC News, though. Think about it. Because the Today Show is really different than MSNBC. So if you watch the Today Show, you probably shouldn't if you like Donald Trump. If you watch NBC Nightly News, you probably shouldn't. If you watch that weekend program that Chuck Todd used to host, that some Kristen Welker hosts now, well, I don't know what to say to you if you watch that, okay? Like, you're on your own. But the other shows that present themselves as being like, okay, we're news, they're not really news. And this is exposing that. And so I do think that their ratings overall could suffer. And I do think she's going to sue them like nobody's business. I'm seeing you guys are so complimentary today. Thank you for that. Thank you. Because I appreciate your warm comments. I will get out to some of those in just a moment. But again, just a reminder, please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you hit thumbs up. Please make sure you share this. The other thing, I have an assignment for you. I'm going to put this in the chat right now, and I want you to go. I want you to go take a look at my new company, 76research.com. I'm really proud of it because I care so much about everybody's ability to invest for the long term. I really do. And when you look at all this sort of ESG-centric stuff that's going on, this ESG, okay, well, we got to hit this, you know, this demo and this particular demographic and this and that on our board of directors, instead of caring about making sure you have the best people in place. I mean, this is part of the whole problem right now. And, you know, whether it's MSNBC or whether it's Disney, which I'm going to talk about momentarily, any of these companies are really turning into large problems in that they're not focused on profitability as much as they are on all this other nonsense. And they've lost their way, just like Joe Biden has lost his way. And so I don't want you to lose your way. You need to have a clear head as an investor. We have the 76 report there. Actually, the new edition comes out this Friday. So you can sign up for the 76 report, or you can sign up for one of the portfolios. I had Rob on the show just yesterday talking about the income builder portfolio, really great dividend stocks that you can rely on, hopefully, for one day when you're going to retire. So 10 to 15 names in there. Rob has been on Wall Street 25 years. And I've been talking to him for years about this venture, which has been so important and close to my heart, something I wanted to do for a really, really long time. And we both had very similar convictions about it. So we teamed up, we created 76 Research. I want you to go there. I want you to sign up at least for the free stuff. Make sure you get the free stuff because there's plenty of free stuff on there too. But the model portfolios are really, really, and we have, as I said at the top of the show, a code right now that's running through Easter for the dividend portfolio. That's the income builder portfolio. Just type in divs for dividends. I'm going to put this in there too. Code divs for dividends 76. 3 guesses where that 76 came from. I was so inspired. You know me, Miss 1776.